Hello, viewer, and welcome to Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And on Spotlight, we are always doing our best to bring to you lessons and persons who are that are important and are doing some amazing things in terms of transforming our community in the direction of light. And in the last few weeks, we are doing a series that is brought to us by the Bible Society of Kenya about a very enlightening subject that all of us need to be part of. And it's interesting, just belongs to another person, only to realize that actually have a form of shock that we have experienced that we need to deal with. And that really does ease life. We're happy again today to be talking about what happens when someone is grieving. What happens when someone is grieving? And all of us have experiences with grief in different kinds of ways. From the Bible Society of Kenya, and he is going to be bringing us the wisdom and the insight when it comes on this subject of what happens when someone is grieving. And also engage us. We welcome you to engage us on our social media pages. Also engage us by sending an SMS on 22232. Let's hear your voice on this subject and all the expressions that are done here on Spotlight this evening. Reverend, welcome.
Thank you so much, Reverend.
Yeah.
I appreciate.
It's been a wonderful series.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Yeah, very enlightening. Very, very enlightening.
Indeed.
And today we talk about grieving, right? And people have all kinds of understanding of grieving. And maybe it's good for you to maybe just begin by telling us what is grieving? I mean, what is described as grieving?
In very simple terms, grieving is mourning. It's literally mourning the loss of someone or the loss of something. I know we are and grieving the loss of our loved ones, but we want to that. A awareness that we not only grieve when we have a loved one, but we also grieve when we lose a friend. When, in terms of someone was a good friend, something happens in the relationship and it goes sour and that relationship is broken. So that loss, we mourn that kind of loss. Even when we lose like property, you have something, but you happen to lose it. Let's say you lose your mobile phone, you will mourn that loss. Even when Wi-Fi goes off.
Especially in this generation.
In this generation.
Wi-Fi is taken to be a basic
human
need.
Yeah. When there is no Wi-Fi, you will mourn that loss. You will mourn it. And the loss of health, when one maybe suffers an illness, a chronic one, and they are told there is no cure for this illness, that loss of one's good health will make this person mourn. They will mourn the loss of their good health. And on the other hand, loss of a job, loss of that job, the loss of that business, and the Reverend, even loss of a marriage. When someone, loses their marriage, which was doing well, but something happens and they lose that marriage, they will mourn. They will mourn. They will grieve the loss of that marriage.
Okay.
And the list goes on and on. Yeah.
No, it's interesting because the other day I had a friend whose daughter lost her pet and to death. The pet died. And this girl was so in grief that my friend had to call me and ask me, how do I help my daughter?
Yeah.
Because now the dog has died. She is totally broken, which is interesting because on a normal day, you're like, I mean, it has, but to this girl, it's more, right? It's there, and there's always that. There's a way you can grieve, and then it leads to kind of a darker place, right? It can lead to a darker place. But is there a way you grieve, kind of grieving that leads to healing?
Oh, yeah. Very well, Rev. And a very important question. Because grieving is actually said to be when you and me encounter loss and our that you are describing, the moment we encounter loss, we get into a grieving process. And in trauma healing, we brand that process and we call it a journey, a grieving journey. Now, in regard to your question, it is possible for someone to go through not in the right way, and therefore they don't end up mourning the way they ought to, in a way that will lead to healing, coming to terms with the loss. And those now who don't follow the process as we are going to look today, they get into what we call complicated grieving. It gets complicated. And the complications we are talking about are in many ways. But who grieving this the right way, you see, they will now end up healing, accepting that yes, I lost this. It's no longer mine. I don't have that anymore. I don't have that loved one anymore. I don't have it anymore. I don't have whatever it is that I lost. It's no longer there. They will get to a place of accepting. And then after that, then they will come to terms and experience healing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's very important because if there is a grieving that can lead you to complications or a way of doing it, I'm wondering where the consciousness should lie. Should the consciousness lie in terms of the way we are grieving on the person who is grieving? So they have a kind of grieving that has an outlet of healing? Or is it up to the people around the person who is grieving to put them on the of can call the grieving that leads to healing?
I think, Reverend, self-awareness there is key. Both for people who is mourning and for the person who is mourning. Self-awareness. And that's why we are here tonight, Spotlight, creating awareness. So when I experience loss, I'll be aware what am I processing after experiencing this loss? What's going on inside of me? Because apparently, due to lack of this awareness, many of us don't get to understand what's going on. And therefore, we end up mourning the wrong way. And that leads to the complications we are talking about. And therefore, self-awareness is key. Self-awareness is very key.
You know, and that's, again, also quite interesting about just being self-aware. Which is kind of a duality, because on one side you have mourning, on the other side you are self-aware. Because you have to keep a certain path. And you have to have some kind of the red flags that now things are getting out of control. I hope that we'll talk about that. But today, understanding grief, there's some people who are sad most of the time. You know, you meet people, they are sad. Like most of the time they are sad. Like They are lonely. They don't know. I mean, to them, joy is a place where they make touristic appearances. So when a person is generally sad, right? Could that be a sign there's something going on, or is it just the demeanor of a person?
You see, loss of joy leads to sadness. So you see, this person is sad because they have lost their joy. That's why they are sad. And therefore, there must be prevailing circumstances that led this person to loss of their joy. And therefore, that's what needs to be explored. What is this that led to the loss of their joy? And this person now is like the way you are describing the person, that they are sad always, all the time. No matter what's going on around them, even when their world is exciting, they are still sad. There must be prevailing circumstances. That this person could have gone through an experience that caused the loss of their joy.
Okay. And then, Reverend, there's disappointment. There are like the day-to-day disappointment.
Yeah.
You had some expectation, and then it didn't happen, or happened not to a level that is sufficient as per expectations. So maybe you can also tell us maybe the thin line between disappointment and grieving. Yeah.
The line is indeed very thin. Because you see, when we talk of disappointment, expectations were not met. Maybe I didn't end up losing something, but chances are my expectations were not met. Let's say, for example, in our program tonight, someone watching us, the expectations, we have already prepared them that today we are going to create awareness of what happens when someone is grieving. They have expectations. If we don't meet that expectation, most likely our viewer will be disappointed, God forbid. But we may not describe them as a people who are mourning. But we will describe them as disappointed. So the line is very thin, but they are not one and the same thing.
You know, that's very important because of this political season. You debate thinking, hey, my candidate is going to just do really well. And then you find that your candidate did not do maybe as well. There were not as much fireworks as you thought would happen. And you start feeling, hey, will the person lose, or what's going on? And so there's a sense of disappointment. But from what you're telling us is that even in a political season like this, we have to, some people will be disappointed, but there could be others who will enter to actually grieve, depending on the outcome, right? And I think this is just the right time to also tell us about the process. I know you have alluded to that, but the process of grieving. And I know that you have the language of villages, and that kind of language of villages, village 1, village 2, village 3. Maybe you can just guide us through that process.
All right.
Of grieving.
Thank you, Rev. As we had mentioned earlier, grieving is a process. And this process is dubbed journey of grieving. And we want to look at it. It is known world over that when someone now gets into a crisis, that loss is what now we refer to as a crisis, whatever it is that they lose. And we say this loss is broad. It cuts across. Immediately, this person now encounters or experiences, they get into the first stage. And this village, we call it village of denial and anger. Village of denial and anger. This person gets angry as a result of the loss. And this anger, because none of us really loves that feeling of anger, so what do we do next? We deny that loss has happened. We don't want to hear of it. we actually don't want to believe it. And therefore, we start saying, what are you talking about? So-and-so cannot die. You don't know what you're talking about. We deny. And the next thing we end up doing is that some people may numb their feelings. You see, this person has entered denial. So they may want to numb the feelings. They don't want to feel like they have lost or they are mourning, they are grieving. They numb the feelings. Then some people, on the other hand, they may behave like they really don't know what is happening. It's like they lose their sense of who they are and what's going on. And on the other hand, there are other people who can't believe. You see, we are talking about denial. They can't believe that's happening. And now people suddenly start to cry and completely thing, as we're going to see at some point. Of course, because they are mourning, and there are those who will erupt in anger, as we said from the onset. On the other hand, Rev, there are those who may be angry with God. Where was God when this happened? Why didn't God stop it? They get angry with God. And they may actually fall out at the end of the day. There are those who may fall out with God, and they may point, fingers, and they blame God for the loss. And that now is what we are talking of as them being angry with God. There are those who may be angry with the person who has died. Why didn't you fight for your life? Why did you leave me? You can imagine a young mother who may happen to lose her husband. This young man may get so angry with the husband who has decided to leave her alone, to raise their kids alone. So there are those who get angry with the person who has died. And there are those now who will start, who will take the path of, I wish I knew. I wish I could have done this. I wish I took my loved one to a better hospital. I wish these doctors maybe, sometimes we end up blaming doctors. Yet maybe they did the best they could, but we point fingers at them and we blame them. We say, they neglected my person. This is why this person has died. But actually, as a matter of fact, this person is in village 1. They are on denial on the other hand.
And just before we go to the next village, let's stay with this village first of denial. And you can affirm us or otherwise. It's a natural thing to happen. When you're in that moment, when you receive some bad news or you have a bad experience, that when you get into this denial and anger and all that, is it a natural thing?
Sure. That spells we're human. We are human. This is why we mourn. That's why we get angry. That's why we get, because we are human. This is a natural response to a loss. So it doesn't mean that this person is abnormal in any way or they are displaying abnormal behavior. No, not at all. They are normal.
And therefore, when we're in a context like that, when somebody is in this crisis moment, anger, denial, we should just let them be there.
Sure. We'll see why we should let people be. As long as they are not exposing themselves to harm. Again, there are people who may get so angry they want to hurt themselves. So we may not again allow someone to hurt themselves. But if they are angry and they are not behaving in a way that is harmful to themselves or to maybe other people, or to anything around them, then let them be. Give them space. Let them mourn. It's natural. They are human.
And another point, came to my head as you took with God, and wondering the role of the pastors in people who are angry. Is it a sin to be angry with God? Is it okay to be angry with God? Because sometimes it's a thin line. Because some teachings may be that you are losing your faith, or you're now on the bordering blasphemy, things like that. So how should pastors then handle persons who are angry with God?
Very, very important question. Because remember what we said at the beginning, that we're here to create awareness. And we are doing this for all of us, including our dear members of the clergy, whom we are part of. We are creating awareness. Because at times, due to lack of this know-how, we think this is the time to read scriptures, maybe to pray over, to cast away demons. Those who think that if someone is erratic and they are angry as a result of loss, they are possessed and it is time now to cast out, which is wrong. This person is perfectly normal. They are behaving like a normal human being who has experienced loss. And therefore, we will be talking about a lament. And we will even go back to the scriptures.
Okay.
And we will see people who experienced loss, people who found themselves in very difficult circumstances, and they lamented, they complained, they blamed God.
All right, let's wait for that moment. I like the fact that there'll be that moment. It's very important. Because is it right to be angry with God? Is it right to, when you're angry with God, whom do you call God names? How do you manage that moment of just being angry with God, or what happens? And we're looking forward to that. But maybe now you can take us to village 2. You've come from the place of denial and anger. Now you're moving to the next village.
Okay, as we go to village 2, it's important also to appreciate that still in village 1, this person who is angry and they are on denial, they may look for someone to blame. And it's important for us to be aware, even our viewers, that at times this person may hear or see the dead person. They may dream and they tell you, you know what, so and so, the person who has already gone was visited me in my dreams. It's not demonic at all. This person is in that process. They are going to go through it, and very soon, through they will get to a place of healing and activity. This person is no longer with us. Remember, Rev, it's important for us also to mention that when this person who is angry and they are on denial, it's important for them to pay attention, to be listened to, as they even vent that anger. Because there are some who don't listen, and they now in doing something to see village 2. So let me quickly go to village 2. Of course, the sadness is in hopelessness, real sadness, and remember the village of denial and anger. The second village, we call it village of no hope. This person totally loses hope. They start really seeing the reality that my loved one is not coming back. Maybe my mobile phone is not coming back. See?
Yeah, especially there's a generation now to who a phone it's like a limb.
It's so dear.
It's like a limb. To lose a phone is like losing a finger or a hand, and so I'm just supporting the idea that you can actually grieve over, you realize
Sure.
that your phone is not coming back.
You get to that point, and that makes someone now feel so hopeless. I remember a colleague of mine lost her laptop, and it really devastated and disoriented her because everything was in that laptop.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I can imagine.
So that is what we are talking about.
Thoughts,
the hopelessness.
ideas,
The
hours of work.
yeah. The imaginations that work is gone. Someone can get grounded totally. The other thing is that these people may find it hard to organize their lives. They somehow don't know where to start. They get into like a state of confusion. They are in that village of no hope. And on the other hand, there are those who may start to wait that my loved one is coming back. There are those who may even talk about, I'm expecting so-and-so to come. And they may even start, leaning on false hope. But definitely it's normal. They are going through the process. Remember, they have not totally moved from village one where they are on denial. But these are additional feelings that come. They may feel lonely, and of course, there are those who will feel affected. They may even complain that nobody cares about me, nobody understands me, nobody feels what I may fail to understand. That really this person is in deep mourning because they have really been hurt by the loss itself. And unfortunately, Reverend, in this village of no hope, there are those people who may want to kill themselves. Suicide. There are those who may commit suicide because they kind of lose the meaning of living. And they say, if so-and-so is gone, I want to follow them. I want to go where they have gone. And on the other hand, there are those who may feel guilty and start blaming themselves, especially if they feel there is better care of loved ones they have lost, or probably it is money. They feel maybe I could have been cleverer. I should not have invested my money that way. It is probably they are duped and they feel I would have exercised due diligence. How gullible could I have been? So they may blame themselves, but still in the second village.
Wow. I think when you talk about all those things, you speak about places that we all have been. We may not have realized that we're in a grieving journey, but you speak of things that everybody at one point or at a particular time, we can with those feelings that you're talking about, those emotions, those expressions. And we want to go to village 3, but before we go to village 3, we'll take a short break.
Thank you.
Viewer, we are talking about what happens when someone is grieving, and we to have Reverend Jeremiah Ngodho, who is a facilitator of trauma healing, coming to us from the Bible Society of Kenya. Great insights that we all need to have. Taking a short break, we'll be right back. Stay with us. This is Spotlight, and do engage us again on our SMS 22232. We want to hear what it is that you have to say. Again, stay with us. Taking a short break.
Thousands of people throng cities every single day looking for opportunities to make their lives better. They are employees, business owners, or just opportunity seekers desiring to have a breakthrough in their lives. Join me, DM Tanki, as we take this journey from the perspective of different successful entrepreneurs and corporate employees on Occupy Today every Sunday from 8 p.m. exclusively on Hope TV. Look and live.
Coming up this September, CITAM Springboard Convention 2022 with fresh anointing to radiate God's glory as we reach out to the lost. Mark and save these dates from the 20th to the 24th September 2022 at CITAM Valley Road. The convention is themed Till the Whole World Hears and will definitely revive and uplift your faith. The Bible tells us in Matthew chapter 24 verse 14, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached to the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Get ready for the Springboard Convention 2022. You don't want to miss it.
You know we can't forget them. And neither can you. Enjoy all-time classics every Thursday at 11 a.m. Hope TV is now available on GoTV Channel 103, Zuku Channel 873, Signet Channel 817 and StarTimes Channel 026. Enjoy our uplifting content and family-friendly programming anytime. Hope TV, you look and live.
Viewer, welcome back. This is Spotlight, and we are talking about what happens when someone is grieving. And this is an important subject for all of us. One point or other, for one thing or other, we will find ourselves, or we have found ourselves, or we are already right now as we part of this program in a place of grieving. And again, do engage us on 22232. That's our text message line. And again, happy to have Reverend Jeremiah Ngotho taking us through the important session on what happens when someone is grieving. Taking us to Village 2, where there is now a lot of there is a lot of hopelessness, right? And there's a lot of blaming and very great sadness there. And maybe you can now take it to Village 3. Let's hear what happens there.
Mm-hmm. Village 3 is a village of joy and happiness, because we call it the village of new beginning. The village of new beginning. And there, a person start to think about a new way of life. You know, let's say, for example, a person lost a spouse. When they get there, meaning that they have gone through healing, they have gone through listening, they have been helped to process their pain, and they have managed to come to terms. And this is why we are saying it's a village of new beginning. And if, as we're saying, someone had lost a spouse, this is where they start thinking. Let's say a couple lost a baby. This is where they start thinking about getting another baby. Because they have processed the loss, the pain, the hurt. They have been helped. They have been listened to. The trauma that came with that initial loss has healed. And that's why they are able to get or to reach this new beginning. And this is where now someone may demonstrate that they are stronger. They have developed resilience. They have rebuilt their life over time. Reverend, as we say this, we wouldn't want our viewers to imagine that it is an automatic journey. We don't.
You have a direct, it's like a
direct
direct process.
Yeah, it isn't. And we want to affirm our viewers that it is perfectly normal for someone to even like move from one village to another. Let's say someone had moved from village 1 to village 2, even to an extent of getting to village 3. But something happens and they find themselves back to village 1. That's perfectly normal. They are still processing the loss. Going back to the illustration I had used earlier of my colleague who lost her laptop. One morning, we were facilitating, and she needed something from the laptop. Then she remembered, it was in that laptop, and she got angry. You know, she had reached the village of New Beginning. She was starting to cope with that loss. But when she remembered the document I needed, I can't have it because it got lost with the laptop. She got angry. She found herself back to village 1. And that's perfectly normal. It's normal mourning and grieving process. What is not normal, Reverend, is getting stuck.
Okay.
Getting stuck in a particular village.
For a long time.
For a long time. We have encountered people who have been stuck for years. The other day we were in Embu and I met a brother who was stuck with the loss of his brother for 12 years. Until this person now attended a trauma healing session. And the awareness was created that yes, you got into this crisis, you started the journey, but you got stuck in village 2. This guy was totally devastated by that loss. So what we are saying now is getting stuck is what is not normal. You know, feeling angry and being on denial 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you still don't want to accept the loss. That is not now okay.
And as you're talking about this, how does one know that they're actually stuck? Can one be stuck without knowing?
Yeah, and that's why we are here. I believe our viewers, as they listen to us, they may get to know whether for some reason they are stuck. Now, how do you get to know? We go back to what happens in the villages. If you are still angry and you are on denial, I remember talking to one lady who had lost her hubby several years back, and this lady didn't want her husband to be referred to as late. Don't call him late. He is not late. And those are several years later. That person is stuck. So if you're still angry and on denial, if you don't want to accept, you are stuck.
You know, I've just remembered a situation where friends were meeting, and one of them had passed on about a few months earlier, and there's this person who was in that meeting, and these friends talked and ended their meeting, and they never referred to their colleague who used to be part of them.
Yeah.
And the person who was telling me about this experience left that place very angry that they never mentioned at all. One of theirs who used to be part of those gatherings, they seem to have just forgotten. But the person themselves is stuck. Because how come? How can you just let go that easily? How were you even good friends in the first place? Were you sincere, or
Yeah.
what was going on?
Yeah.
About getting
Yeah,
stuck.
how can you just so easily move on? Yeah, you should mention like he's still here. Now that is what we are calling abnormal, getting stuck.
Okay.
Getting stuck. So our viewers, if you lost a loved one, you lost a property, you are still angry and bitter, you're still maybe seeking for revenge, and you have refused to accept or to let go, chances are you are still stuck.
All right.
You need help.
Reverend, are there things that you can say, yes, you're in a mourning place. It's already a difficult place. But are there some things that can make grieving more difficult?
Oh, yeah. Quite a number. And we want to mention a few. Now, number one, if the loss is as a result of murder, the type of loss can make grieving more difficult. Especially now knowing that my loved one could still be alive if they were not killed. That makes it very difficult. In addition to that, if there is no corpse, if there is no corpse, a person goes missing, chances are they could be already, they could have died, but who knows? We don't have the corpse. That makes grieving very difficult. Actually, people may get stuck. They may get confused. Do we accept that the person has died? But how do we know? How do we know? Because there is no corpse. So that's the second thing that makes grieving more difficult. Then number three, if it is the loss of a child, that's very painful. Loss of a child, a young person, very promising individual. And 1 minute they are there, you know, so alive and full of energy. And the next minute they are not there. Oh, that makes that loss very difficult. Very difficult. Very difficult. Then definitely when it is suicide. Suicide also can complicate grieving because at times accepting that loss becomes very, very difficult, and also trying to come to terms. Why did this person get to that extent of taking their life? You mean we could not have helped or intervened? You mean there is nothing that could have done? Was that the best solution to what they were going through? So that also makes it very difficult.
Very difficult.
Very difficult.
You know, I'm also thinking in terms of a broken relationship.
Yes.
And the person who has been left is not told the reason why they're left.
Yeah.
You know, let's say a gentleman has broken a relationship, or a lady has broken a relationship. Maybe it was going towards marriage, but then the lady does not explain,
Yeah.
you know, to the gentleman why they left. You know, and that kind of lack of knowledge, you know, complicates that moment as well. I mean, it's just these insights are very helpful because they bring us to that point where you had alluded before about lament, right? And maybe you can tell us again what a lament is.
Yeah. Thank you, Reverend. Now, it's true that we mentioned about a lament. And tonight we want to create awareness of what a lament is. Now, in simple terms, a lament is a way to pour out our complaints to God. We tell God exactly how we feel. If we are feeling angry with Him, we express our honest feelings to God.
Isn't that blasphemous? I mean, isn't that like pushing it? You know?
Sure. It borders.
You know, borders. I mean, are there some extremes to this? And does God understand that we are grieving, and therefore we kind of are like almost out of our minds as we express ourselves to Him?
Of course, there must be restraints because God still remains our Father, our Creator, a supreme being. who is not our age mate, and there must be boundaries to watch. But
let's talk about boundaries, but there's no restraint.
Yeah.
Because maybe somebody is saying God does not even exist, right? Or saying that God is totally against us, so I don't want to hear anything about God because He's against us, And then if God is good, why is this stuff happening? So the idea of restraint, what if there's no restraint?
Please, note carefully. We have said a lament is a way of pouring out our complaints to God, not to each other. Not when I call God names before people or with people in our talks and our conversations. I go to God directly and I tell God, I feel this. This is how I feel about you. And we are going to see in the scriptures people who expressed honest feelings. They told God exactly how they were feeling. And we are even going to look at a psalm written by David as he was pouring out his heart to God, expressing his honest feeling, telling God exactly how he is feeling. Now, a lament is composed. And Reverend, if you allow me, let me quickly take us to that lament which was composed by David, and this is in the book of Psalms chapter 13. Psalms chapter 13. I quickly want to go through it. It has 6 verses from verse 1. How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? That's David. Psalms 13.
Crying out.
Crying out. He is complaining. He is lamenting. That's allowed. Not blaspheming, not insulting, and not disrespecting God.
But it's an expression that is authentic.
Authentic, deep from the heart, expressing the pain, right exactly as one feels it. Not calling God names, not abandoning God, and not forsaking Christianity altogether, and not blaming, really. So it's
but
that...
you agree with me that some people have lost or walked away from the faith out of a grieving moment, which they expected God to, address in a particular way, but He didn't. So they abandoned.
Totally.
Yeah, so part of their grieving thing is that they left.
And you know what, Rev? I get to meet these people every now and then. Every now and then. And they tell you, I'm no longer praying. I no longer go to church. I no longer read the Bible. I no longer enjoy fellowships. I have totally disconnected. Why? Because this person experienced pain, they experienced suffering, and God was to blame, according to them. But they did not get to this point that we are talking about tonight, where they now expressed their honest feelings to God. They did not get to the point of lamenting and telling God exactly how they feel. And we see people in the Bible lamenting. You look at Moses, look at Job. I mean, so many people who lamented. Moses himself, even to an extent that he could threaten God. And he tells him, if you don't go with us,
we're not moving.
We're not moving.
Yeah.
Because he felt like, God, are you still around? Are you still with us?
And somebody said that there's nothing that comes from you that is authentic, that God can't handle.
Sure.
You know, God is big enough to handle your anger. You know, God is big enough to handle your whatever nature of lament it is.
Yeah, and He understands.
And you know, God is big enough to handle it. And if and that's a very important understanding to know that don't suppress your authentic feeling in fear that God may be offended. Right? But as long as you're sincere, no extent of sincere expression can offend God. Because He's big enough to handle anything. Anything. I mean, and I think that's a very important wisdom that sometimes would allow the people to just express themselves. And maybe you can tell us about writing a lament.
How do you go about it? Very important. Now, when it comes to writing a lament, it's important for us to understand a few things. That a lament has got a few parts. But the most important part of that lament is that complaint to God. That's what makes it now make sense. That's what defines it now as a lament. If it is missing a complaint to God, then it is not really a lament. It's something else. There must be a complaint. So the first thing that we do is to express that. We express to God, this is what I am complaining about. And going back to the psalm that we are reading, Psalm 13, you find that that is where David starts. He starts by complaining. And with verse 1 and 2, he is telling God exactly how he is feeling. But you find the next part of a lament is whereby he cries for help. And in verse 3, David tells God, look on me and answer, Lord, my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death. He is now, he has complained. He has told God exactly how he feels. And we encourage our viewers to honestly do that. If you feel you need to lament, please do it. It's not wrong. It's not a blasphemy. It is an honest expression of your feelings to God. And then, after you complain, the next thing you do, you ask for help. You ask God to help you in that painful situation that you are in that which you are lamenting to Him about. Ask Him to help you. And that is exactly what David is doing. He is telling God in verse 4, and my enemy say, I have overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fall. Then in verse 5, he now surrenders to God. He expresses his trust in God. He tells God, but I trust in your unfailing love. I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. So David surrenders to God. Even in that space of lamenting and complaining to God, he does not abandon, forsake, or leave God. He remains there with God, and he tells him, now, as much as this is happening in my world, in my space, I still surrender to you. I depend on you. I trust you for help. I trust in your unfailing love. I trust in your salvation. And the last thing that we do in our lament is we praise. We praise God. He still remains a good God. And our painful experiences, they don't change God. He remains a good God. And this is why in verse 6, David is saying, I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me.
All right. You know, as you were talking about that, I remember the scripture, the story where Jesus is giving a hard teaching. And some people leave, some disciples abandon. And then he asks the disciples, do you also want to live? But then they say, where shall we go? You alone has the words of eternal life. So even in your pain and in your loss and in your mourning, there's no higher, better place to go. apart from residing in God,
Yeah.
which is really powerful that it's in that place that you now, that knowledge that you now find a spirit to even praise God. When you realize that, I mean, He's the ultimate. There's
Yeah.
no higher.
Yeah.
And if you sleep off, it's a lesser place.
Yeah.
You know, He's the highest place. Wonderful insights there. And we really appreciate about giving us that license to lament. And maybe you can also talk to our viewers directly by that camera there. Just your concluding remarks and
Yeah.
also tell us what the next episode is going to be about.
Thank you. We do appreciate you following us and staying with us, our dear viewers. And I believe that tonight we have created awareness. Bible Society of Kenya is available to be of help, and trauma healing is a need for almost all of us, because none of us can really say that we have never experienced loss. All of us have experienced loss in one way or another. And therefore, it's important for us to appreciate that the moment you experience loss, you start a journey. And that journey, it's important for you to go through to the point of accepting, and you get to the new beginning. Please avoid getting stuck, because that will complicate grieving, and that will make you not really get the healing, which is very important for your life. And then on the other hand, we hope to continue with this program coming next week. And we will be looking at children. We will be looking at how can we help children who have experienced bad things. We use the term bad things because children may not identify with the term trauma. But in real sense, we are talking about helping children who have been traumatized. And we look forward to coming week, and we hope that you'll join us. God bless you. Look out to follow us on our social media handles, Bible Society of Kenya. You'll find us there. And I believe we will continue with this wonderful partnership with Hope TV.
All right.
Spotlight is a blessing. Thank you, Reverend. God bless
Yeah,
you.
thank you too, Rev. Very insightful. And I'm sure that even as viewers have been watching this, they definitely experience healing and lots of knowledge when it comes to times of loneliness. And talking about children, I mean, and experiencing bad things.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. And we look forward to our next program because I'm sure many parents would definitely want to hear about this. And thank you again for bringing us this wisdom. Viewer, again, thank you for being with us. We've been talking to Jeremiah Ngotho, Reverend, who is coming to us from the Bible Society of Kenya, again, a facilitator in trauma healing, and great insights. And one of the things that has come strongly to us is that God can handle your grief. Cry out to Him. It's okay. This has been Spotlight. Thanks for watching. And have a good night.
Bye-bye.